Welcome to the Advancement Podcast. Our mission is to reach the lost in America by advancing leaders and churches so that communities are transformed. Join us as we discuss how to stay healthy as leaders, work in teams, and lead change. Come on, let's advance together.
Welcome to another episode of the Advancement Podcast. Hey, if you enjoy what you're listening to, if you could click subscribe on whatever podcasting platform you are listening to.
There are changes in the Google Play. They're making changes in their platform. And,
okay. Well, click subscribe so you get it every Tuesday and Thursday. If you could also rate us, it helps us get in front of more people and spread the mission of advancement. Also, if you're watching, you can click subscribe or like on YouTube and Facebook. That way you get it every Tuesday and Thursday. We work hard to have enough podcasts to come out every Tuesday and Thursday, especially on summers when I'm vacationing and Tim's busy and he's got kids leaving and woohoo. So I am Todd Barham, the host of the Advancement Podcast, here with Timothy Ware. The lead coach of advancement. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm good. Today I'm Timothy.
Yeah. Well,
Timbo
Fisher.
In the second grade, for some reason, that teacher decided to call me Timmy. I guess she was a Lassie fan.
Oh, okay.
Lassie. Yeah.
Well, today's a very special day for me. Not the listeners, it won't be his birthday, but today is my third son Isaiah's third birthday.
Third son's third birthday.
Yeah, he's turning 3 today.
Actually, this is your second son, third child. I don't think
second son, third child, third birthday.
Yes.
Whew. Have 4 kids, they say. It'll be fun.
Yeah, but don't third son him, man.
Well, he's the second son, third child, number 3.
Yeah, because your little
Maddie. Yeah.
Maddie might not like that.
Oh, she'll be just fine. She'll let Dad know.
Dude,
she is.
Noah is going to have to watch out. She's getting tall.
Yeah. Many people think that they're twins. And the doctor said inevitably really will be raising twins because females apparently in this age mature 2 years faster than boys. So Maddie is exactly 2 years younger than Noah, almost like to the day. It's like they're 6 days apart to be 2 years apart. And so he said, inevitably, you'll be raising 2 twin teenagers that are going through puberty at the same time. It's like, thanks, Doc. Thanks for making us feel better.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, baby.
So that's just what we need in this crazy world we live in.
Happy birthday, Isaiah.
Happy birthday, Isaiah. We got to figure out what we're doing. We're going to do something tonight for his birthday, but 3-year-old. I mean, what do you do?
He's a 3-year-old.
He's 3.
He's not going to remember a thing.
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. So, we're going to go do something.
You're showing pictures, and he's going to go, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, today's topic is evangelism in a COVID world. That seems like almost to me like an oxymoron. I mean, in a world that we can't, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. Okay, so everybody knows, in a world where we can't, we have to social distance 6 feet apart, have to wear a mask, and half the time we can't understand what each other's saying.
You can't understand through those masks what somebody's saying?
It's hard, man. I've realized with masks how much visually I look at your mouth, and my mind tells me partly what you're saying just by looking at your mouth.
I'm hiding my mouth behind the microphone.
Yeah, I know.
Are you doing okay?
Well, I can still see the outsides of your. It's weird. I'm a visual cue person,
so okay.
I can't tell. Like earlier, I was in Starbucks, okay, getting my coffee. Because
drive-throughs are a pain for you, aren't they?
No, now Starbucks open their pickup back, because my drink doesn't take long. They pull a lever, it's ready to go. So I go through the line, and I walked in, and I made eye contact with a lady, and I smiled at her. Well, she doesn't know I was smiling at her because I was wearing a mask. And so it just makes it hard to be a friendly person.
If you smile well, your eyes smile too.
Oh, whatever, Tim. So evangelism's hard in a COVID world, Tim, but tell us why it's important.
Well, gosh, what's that?
That was a good lead-in.
I don't know that I would not say that was a good lead-in.
I'm
That
throwing
was
you
a
softball.
lead-in.
You can knock it out of the park now.
Oh my God!
I'm being cynical today. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Just today.
just today. No other time.
No other days. Just today.
I am highly concerned.
Okay.
During this season in America, I watch social media and I watch pastors and I watch believers post things that are horrendous, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, they talk about questioning your faith if you're not in church and those kinds of things. They talk about persecution, where if you've ever met somebody who was actually in persecution, my daughter,
they might get mad at you,
had a friend in high school who came from a country that did not allow Christianity, where this person's father had been arrested and thrown in prison because of the gospel. The reason they were in the United States, that they now are here, is because of political asylum.
Yeah.
He's never allowed back in his home country. He can never go see the rest of his family ever again.
Wow.
And this is not persecution that we're experiencing.
It's more persecution than we've ever seen before, but it's not even really.
Here's the deal. It's not persecution because, and this is my opinion, if you're a listener and you get offended by what I'm about to say, then just drop me a note at info@advancement.cc and I'll respond back to you. But the point is, persecution is when they say it's just the church.
Right.
And they're saying to everybody, don't gather, or everybody wear masks, everybody social distance. They didn't say just churches do this and we're going to let concert goers. Now, there are some issues around the thing that went on in Nevada, and I get that. But let's be careful hollering that, because if not, we're going to create that for ourselves.
Sure.
But that has nothing to do with evangelism.
Well, and the Constitution is still on our side, Tim. I mean, still.
I don't want to be a political debate here.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm saying this for the pastors that think they're being persecuted. The Constitution still is on your side. If you pushed it, you probably would win in certain cases, like Nevada and stuff like that. I mean, is it inconvenient for us? Yes. Is it persecution? Probably not. I mean, let's be honest. We're not. I don't think that we've been ushered directly into Revelation chapter 1.
No.
We're not there yet.
Well, my concern with the church during this season is when you watch the language and you listen to the majority of pastors talk, we're more concerned with gathering than going.
Yeah.
Jesus in Matthew 28 said, go into all the world. He didn't say, gather in your little groups.
Yeah.
He said, go into the world. This is a great opportunity for us to be going, and all the language, the majority of the language that I see from pastors is about gathering rather than going.
Okay. Well, so, from the devil's advocate pastor's perspective, the gathering is how we build what we need to go at times. So how do we, because as pastors, we're trained around the gathering. That's what we're trained around.
That is a whole nother.
Sure.
That's a different thing. But
that's neither here nor there. So how do we balance the need for the gathering with really the need now is more for the going now than it is normally. I mean,
I would disagree with that.
Okay.
The scripture has always been about going.
Well, let me say, we have a greater opportunity now than we have before.
Yeah.
Because of the turmoil in the world.
I will give you some credence on that.
Okay.
But it's always been about going. The issue in America is that we built our evangelism around a gathering model that harkens back decades to, well, people will come to church, people will come when there's something, and when they have a problem, they will come to the church and we will give the gospel. The gospel would be presented from the pulpit.
Yeah.
Now, we were taught in the 70s to do street witnessing. We were taught street preaching, and we were taught the Roman road and all those things. And I'm not saying that those are not, they worked in that season.
Yeah.
But we were still predominantly a church-going society at that time. And we have built all of our strategies around that, which really has created an unhealthy emphasis on the gathering.
Sure.
There's no doubt that in the New Testament, that early in Acts, it talks about them gathering together and gathering daily. And we know that in Hebrews 10:25, it says that we shouldn't stop gathering together. But I think it's important that we recognize that Jesus never said that you have to meet once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Paul never even said you have to meet once a week. He said when you gather.
Yeah.
So weekly, daily, quarterly, whatever, when you gather. I think that we have also assumed that is more important than reaching. We have built a culture for the church, not a culture for reaching people. And Jesus came to seek and save those who were lost. Seek and save those who were lost. Matter of fact, if you go into Luke, there's Luke 15, the story of the prodigal son, and there's 3 parables there. And at the end of 2 of those parables, the lost coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lost sheep, it says there will be more rejoicing in heaven over a sinner who repents.
Yeah.
So there's something about the harvest. Even I'm afraid that we've become the older brother.
Okay.
In the third part, that we were more concerned about making sure that we were taken care of
mm-hmm.
than celebrating the sinner that returns.
Yeah. Well, and I think the problem is that the culture has changed and the church's methods haven't. I don't think we know how to relate to the culture anymore.
Well, that's true. But so here's the dichotomy that or another part of the dichotomy we've created. We've made evangelism a church function.
Okay.
We've made it a Sunday morning pastoral function. Not that the gospel shouldn't be going forth, not that shouldn't happen, not that people shouldn't come to faith in our services, but the Great Commission is a commandment to believers, not a commandment to churches.
Okay.
And we've made it a commandment to churches. So our failure, as leaders, has been that we have taken on the responsibility of winning the lost rather than making sure that the mandate of working the harvest field was the believer's mandate.
Mm-hmm.
We've not kept responsibility and accountability there.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that in this moment in time, we still have the greatest opportunity if we will engage as individuals. My wife.
So you're saying it's more important now for us to engage individually than as an institution?
Well, I think this is the opportunity to return to what the Scripture taught us about being individually engaged in the harvest rather than institutionally engaged in the harvest.
Okay.
This is this fall, we're coming into the fall with these episodes or with this episode, and there's usually all of our churches traditionally do fall outreaches, whether it be something around
back to church
Sunday, back to church Sunday,
kickoff Sunday,
back to school Sunday, back to
whatever you call it,
whatever it is. And I've had pastors. Part of the reason this made our list because I've had pastors looking toward the fall, going, "What do we do?"
Yeah.
And I said, "You reach the harvest." And they go, "But how?" I said, "You ask your people to engage the harvest instead." Here's where the difference. We used to often say, "Well, we're going to do a big day, so we're going to engage the harvest and get them to come to church so that we can preach and then they get saved," which is all cool, and we can still do that.
Sure.
But I said, it's about earning the right. First of all, you can still engage your community. It just looks different. Right now, people are going back to school. You know, let me back up. Here's what I would say. First of all, let's talk about the institution and you as a pastor. You have to be engaged online.
Mm.
If you're going to be harvest-centric in this day, you have to be engaged online. But here's what I see as I watch pastors preach online. What 95% do not do. They never talk to the audience that's on the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
They only talk to the room.
Yeah, we have to keep that. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
But you have to discipline yourself that if you're listening, you know, and it's not just during my greeting time, it's during my sermon. I have to look at the camera, even if I have to put it in my notes sometime, look at the camera, talk to that audience. And it's hard. I don't speak all the time, so I often forget even more. I have to put it in my notes sometimes. Okay, look up. Or I put it in my notes, a specific sentence that says, if you're watching online, you can, you know, this or that.
Let's take a moment and hear a word about advancement.
Tim Ware has been a huge benefit and blessing to me personally as well as to my church. When Tim and I first connected in a coaching setting, my church was running in the 130 range. We now run 260, plus we have a really strong online audience. We went through a process of rebranding and changing our name, focusing on our vision, and shifting our culture in a lot of arenas. Tim was invaluable to talk us through that. He came out and met with our team. He was a huge, huge blessing. I highly, highly recommend Advancement.
Now let's get back to the podcast.
Then you also have to engage. You have to have someone who's engaged online.
We still have our online engager.
Right. Well, but this is for people that are new to online. You have to have somebody manning the thread.
Yeah.
Now, something I learned recently,
it's not real hard to do. I mean, you just put a computer or a cell phone in someone's hands that you trust. That's really all you
Well, the other thing that I've recognized is one of the things that people started doing was everybody was doing watch parties.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with that, but
it draws people away from the thread.
That's the big deal.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you do online in your church, as you're engaging people, ask your congregation and ask those people at home. This is a great moment to engage them. If you're watching online, would you share this video? You don't want them doing watch parties, because then everything goes to their thread.
Yeah.
First of all, in a normal circumstance, I want them to share it. It hits the same people. But then all the comments come back to our original thread, where one of us is prepared, somebody from our team is prepared to engage them. So now, as an outreach, if I'm doing outreach and I'm doing personal evangelism, and I'm not as concerned about connecting to the church as I am about connecting with Jesus, and I want to be the engagement piece because they're my relationships, then I do a watch party.
Yeah.
Because then they're engaging with me. So that's kind of the line. If I'm focusing on the church side, then I want them sharing. If I'm trying to get people to say, you be an evangelist to your network, then I do a watch party.
Well, that's something I've had to be disciplined about, is to go back after, because obviously I can't engage while I'm preaching, other than say, hey, if you're watching, I'll go back and try to follow up with the thread from, if there was any prayer requests type that, stuff like that.
Well, I think
we forget to do that sometimes.
I think we also have to be intentional about making sure that if we're doing a salvation altar call, which I'm of the opinion that every evangelical church should always, at the end of every service, have an opportunity for people to respond. Somewhere in every service, you should have an opportunity for people to respond to Christ.
Sure.
Now, pastors, if you're listening to me, you say, but I have people, a lot of my people don't know Jesus. Most of my people that come, they're already saved. But if I give that opportunity, what I'm doing is I'm keeping the pressure on.
Well, they can also respond to the message you just preached too.
Yeah, but no. I want you to hear what I'm saying. We should be clear about a gospel opportunity, because if I, as the leader, am not modeling that, then why would my people do it?
Yeah.
So I think it's so critical that every week that there's a gospel opportunity, so that my people, They hear me in 30 seconds. They hear me in 15 seconds. They hear me in 60 seconds. Present the gospel, give people an opportunity to respond, and they know it's a value to me and to heaven. So that's the first part. Second thing is be engaged in. You can be engaged in your community individually or collectively. Right now, schools fix to start back up, and I'm seeing different statistics, but it looks like probably across the country, we're going to end up probably with about 70% of our students in general back in classrooms.
Yeah, in my area, it's about 80. I asked a couple people that are in the know.
One of the schools right by us, it's almost 90. And I know somewhere else where it's a little lower. Some of them are intentionally making it different.
Well, I think it depends on social economics as well. You know, some parents can't afford to do this. It depends. In my area, a lot of parents cannot.
Well, it depends on if you're working.
Yeah,
I get that. But even if kids are at home, you know, there's questions to ask about Wi-Fi. There's school supply things. There are things you can do. I did see a church that was opening up their sanctuary, going to set it up social distance to be a Wi-Fi hotspot so that for stable internet. So that gives people a chance to have a place so they're not, you know, kind of manage that. I think one of the things, because my daughter's a teacher, my wife used to be a teacher, my mother-in-law was a teacher, Taylor, who was former podcast host, he's teaching. His wife's a teacher. You know, I know lots of teachers.
Yeah,
and this is a crazy world for them.
Yeah,
I would say to pastors and individuals who are listening that we have found that across the country, one of the greatest community engagement opportunities are in our schools. And it's not so much about providing backpacks for students, because backpacks come and go, but it's about engaging the teachers, providing resources for the teachers, because there's more relationships there, you know, whether it be stocking their classroom with paper, or stocking the teacher's lounge with coffee, or I don't know what the need would be. I'll tell you what's interesting. Right now, teachers are going to need masks. They need a quality mask. And my wife was talking about this. She said people should probably have 3 to 4 masks, because you're going to have to wash them and clean them, and you need to be able to rotate your masks during the week. So masks is one thing that's immediately. School near us, the middle school is called, they're doing a one entryway for the 6th grade, one entry for the 7th grade, another entry for the 8th grade. This is the drop off. And then there's the bus entry. So they're, instead of having 1 or 2 entrances, they're going to do 4. And they're asking students to go straight from the drop off or the pickup area or whatever, straight to their classroom. And there's escorts. So we're used to, you would have these rotations, you know, I'm on bus duty this week, you're on bus duty next week, you know, whatever it was like that. The amount of resources that they're going to have to put in play just to manage that, this is a great place for someone to engage, a church to adopt and send volunteers to, because they're going to need all hands on deck every day, not just on some days.
Yeah.
So there are some opportunities here to create. And I've said from the beginning, feed your neighbors, man.
Yeah.
Feed your neighbors, because everybody's not going out. People are doing less. Engage your neighbors. Mow your neighbor's yard. Water your neighbor's yard. Watch their kids. They haven't gotten out of the house to go on a date all summer long because the kids have been home and they can't go anywhere. Well, watch their kids. Build relationships with the intention of reaching people for Jesus. There are opportunities that are existing right now, I think, that we have just ignored because the church always did it. But this is about one-on-one engagement.
Yeah.
That's what this season really shows. I have another friend.
Well, I think that's what our culture's moving to. I mean, even before COVID, our culture was moving to more relational evangelism, and we as the church were still pushing
mass evangelism.
Mass evangelism.
Absolutely.
I had already been pushing in our church. Hey, you're responsible for your friends. You get them saved. You baptize them. You're responsible for them. And I think at the church as a whole, we need to push more towards relational, because people are not drawn to institutions anymore. They're drawn to relationships.
Well, there was a great blog that came out by Ed Stetzer, and he wrote 7 reasons why evangelism is so difficult, basically, evangelism in decline. And there are some legitimate ones in there. It's really a great read if you go look at edstetzer.com. I think it's called Why Evangelism is in Decline, 7 Reasons. And I would say that there's 2 things that people need to be aware of in personal evangelism. So many people are afraid they can't answer the questions. I can't do the question. I can't, if somebody asks me a biblical thing or some theological question, you don't have, theology is not going to do it. This is not a place to argue and convince people. This is a matter of relationship. Mm-hmm. If we are in a relationship with Jesus, then we know it's a relationship with Jesus, and it's developed over time. Some of our questions are never answered.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that blog, he just writes some things that are about people are scared they can't answer the question. I think the simplest personal evangelism training comes from Mark chapter 5 with the Gadarene demoniac, and John chapter 4, which is the woman at the well. And in both those cases, you had people that had an individual encounter with Jesus and their lives were changed. And probably the Mark chapter 5 story is the greatest example, because here's a guy, this demoniac legion of demons cast out, and he says to Jesus, he says, I want to follow you. I want to go with you. And Jesus says to him, go tell your story. He says, the quote would be, just go tell people what Jesus has done for you. Go tell your family what the Lord has done for you.
Yeah.
If our God, and we're in relationship with him, really is changing us, and we're still engaged with him, our story is enough.
Yeah.
We've overcomplicated the gospel. It's interesting. We were talking at the beginning.
Just tell your story of what Jesus has done for you. That's powerful enough.
Should be.
Hopefully. If not, maybe you need to think about getting saved first.
But I think when you look at even stuff like, we've overcomplicated. We were talking earlier about the gathering and and the different things we've done. When you look in Acts chapter 15 at the Jerusalem Council, and they're being asked about circumcision, right?
Yeah.
And so the Jerusalem Council gives these instructions to Gentile believers, and they never talk once about how often they should gather. It's pretty simple. I think we have a tendency to overcomplicate the gospel, because it makes it, especially as leaders, as pastors, because we've been to Bible college, we've got all this theological training, and it's a waste not to use it. But Jesus didn't tell the Gadarene demoniac, well, you need to learn a few things from the law first. You need to learn a few verses of the Bible before you can go tell him. He said, just tell your story.
Yeah.
And this is a time when people are hurting. And if people are hurting, and I can sit with them and say, I'm struggling on my job, but you know what? Here's what's going on with me. And they go, how do you have such peace? Because Jesus, that's where my confidence comes from.
Yeah.
I just need to tell my story. Man, I could get off. I feel like I'm ready to preach all of a sudden.
Do I need to get my guitar or have an altar?
No, you didn't bring your guitar anyway. But, okay.
We can play some tracks here.
So what's your takeaway?
a couple things. I wrote some notes. I'm trying to decide which. We need to be more concerned with going than gathering. Our whole model is centered around come then go, and we need to engage our online and we need to have a gospel opportunity in all services. Those were my quick notes.
I really am pretty adamant about that last one, because I just think that when we skip that moment, for the people who are following us as leaders, we reinforce to them that the gospel and that eternal decisions are less important than other decisions.
Yeah. So it's very true.
All right.
Practice what we preach.
There you go, man. All right.
Thanks for joining us on the Advanced Podcast.
Hey, and if you're listening and you want have any questions, you want more information, you'd like to talk,
coaching.
Yep.
Info@advancement.cc.
Info@advancement.cc. Let's do it.
We'll see you next time on the Advancement Podcast.
If you would like to keep this content coming, all Tim and Todd ask is $1 per show. See how to give, maybe even sponsor an episode or series on the website advancement.cc. Until next week, continue to advance the mission of Jesus.